Hello and welcome to my Avengers Endgame spoiler discussion and thoughts. There's going to be lots of Avengers Endgame spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the film yet, why haven't you seen it? Go out and watch it, it's fantastic. But if not, stick around. I'm just going to be talking about the film, what happens, things I liked, things I didn't like. There's going to be lots of spoilers, just to be warned. Before I watched the film yesterday in IMAX, I started watching all of the films again from the very beginning, back from Iron Man 1. I watched them in chronological order, just like the Russo brothers sort of recommended, just to recap the journey that all these characters have been on, which was really interesting. You just got to pick up on a few things you missed out last time when you first saw them, and it was just nice to get just a refresh of all of the characters, all of the stories. I think I watched one every day until the release of Endgame, so that was really great. Just a nice recap. And then I went into Endgame yesterday, and I absolutely loved it. It was a fantastic film. It's very different to what I expected it to be, but it was just directed fantastically by the Russo brothers once again. I knew it was going to be great in terms of direction, but the story went in a slightly different way to what I thought it was going to be. There was lots of surprises. The tone is very different to what you would expect, and it's just a fantastic film, and it feels more like an event, a fan service film really, and more of a wrap up of the last 11 years of the MCU and all of the stories of the main Avengers. It was just it was a joy to watch from start to end. Lots of surprises, lots of touching moments. I highly recommend going to see it. If you haven't really watched many of the Marvel films, you'll still enjoy the film. It's still fun to watch, but you just won't have a certain connection to the characters, and sort of appreciate some of the scenes and some of the dialogue as much as you would if you had seen the journey from the start. Infinity War was more of a sort of a tighter sort of film, just a better paced from start to end. But Endgame is just one hell of an ending. It's just one hell of a film. It's just some amazing scenes. The characters, they go on quite an adventure, and it ends up in quite an epic way, which I'll probably go into. I'll probably touch on some of the things which threw me off first. But when I did rewatch all of the MCU films again before watching Endgame, it was quite interesting because I tried to rank them in order of favourites as well. I did post a picture on my Twitter. I've got a link in the description below to my Twitter, and there should be a picture there. I tweeted. I've tried to rank up the films, which was quite hard to do actually. I thought it'd be easy going in, just watching each film and try and rank them in order of favourites. A few of them were dead easy, and then I got to a point where actually, like, some of the films are really good, but the characters are not as popular as some of the other characters. Where do I rank them? Do I rank it as a film as a whole, or just my favourite, what I enjoyed? I actually ranked them on just like a personal opinion of like my favourite film, which one would I rewatch more and just enjoy if I'd watch again. So yeah, that was really interesting to do. Just it was quite nice to just try and rank the films and just just see what the list turned out like in the end. So yeah, it was quite interesting going to watch them. I obviously didn't watch Captain Marvel the second time. I just watched it once in the cinema, yes, fairly low down on the list, but it was nice to do that. But going into Endgame, didn't really know what to expect apart from the trailers, which did a really good job not to hide. To hide the main story, I'd say. So they did a good job not to spoil too much, which is fantastic. Even like big character changes, which they didn't spoil. The trailers for, apart from the daily TV spots that they were doing for the marketing, the main trailers were fantastic, especially the ones which went back to the previous films just to have a bit of recap on the characters. It was just really touching with the music and fantastic trailers. So I was really hyped for this film. I had really high expectations. Going in, there were a few things which threw me off. I'll probably discuss them first and then just go into some of the things which I enjoyed more. The things which threw me off didn't really spoil the film for me. They just caught me off guard, which sometimes is a really good thing. So first of all, I mean, the film starts off. I thought it was going to start off with Tony Stark and Nebula in space as the very first scene, because that's what one of the first trailers sort of focused on. But in fact, we get a a quick recap. Well, it's not really a recap, but we go before the snap happened in Infinity War. We get to see Hawkeye with his family, and he's teaching his daughter some archery. She's a really good shot, actually. She gets a bullseye, and he's just, having family time, just chilling out with the family. And you just know what's going to happen. It's quite kind of sad to see play out, because he's having such a great time with his family, and things are not going to go well. So you see them get turned to dust. He's looking for them, and he's in panic, just shouting their name, and that's it. You just see it's just a black screen. I wish they'd let you dwell on that a little longer, just to remind you the impact of they just people just gone in just a snap, just like that. No goodbyes. No, it was just quite tragic and sudden. And the first thing which threw me off was we're always used to seeing the Marvel logo pop up with the the Marvel music, which gets you really hyped up. It's another Marvel film. You get to see the 10 sort of light up. The 10-year anniversary, all that. In this one, the music wasn't the usual Marvel music when the title pops up, the Marvel Studios title. I can't remember what the name of the song is, but it was a very upbeat song straight after seeing what happened with the snap. So it was kind of took me aback a bit. I was like, oh, okay, right, are we starting off in this sort of tone? But it goes back to where Nebula and Tony Stark are in space, where they've just been stranded there. Where Tony gives a really, really touching, he leaves a message for Pepper Potts, which is quite sad. It's quite sad seeing Tony in that state. You don't want to see him sort of desperate to just clinging on to life like that. So someone's going to save him, but it's just quite tough seeing him in that state. But he's having good fun with Nebula. They're playing looks like a space paper football type thing. And her acting's really good. Nebula I never really enjoyed much in the previous films. In Infinity War and Guardians of the Galaxy, I never really connected with her much, but in Endgame I really liked Nebula's character. She did a fantastic job, and I just really liked the character a lot more. Her acting was really good. She had a lot of different sides to her, and yeah, she surprised me. She showed up her true potential a lot more. But yeah, so that Marvel logo, the way the film opened up was quite different to what you would expect for her finale event like Endgame, especially something that was so serious after what happened with the snap. It separates itself from Infinity War really well, so don't expect, if you haven't seen it and plan to see it, not sure why you're watching a spoiler video anyway, but it separated itself nicely from Infinity War, so it didn't take the same beats, the same tone. Which I kind of liked. I mean, I love Infinity War. It's one of my favourites. But going into this, maybe I might have been disappointed if it was just Infinity War 2, as in it just played out the same way, the same pacing, the same beats. The pacing is very, very different to Infinity War. So I think going in my mind, I was expecting a similar sort of pacing. And when it wasn't, I was just trying to sort of adjust to this different type of film. But it needed that. I mean, if the film went straight in action from the start, from the get-go, just action, it would have got tiring. Because of what happened in Infinity War, I think we needed sort of a bit of a slow burn just to just to see what state everything's in, what state the world's in, how the heroes are feeling. That brings me on to the next point, which just totally threw me off in a good way, is Thanos dying, I think, before the actual title sequence of the film, actually. Yeah, if I remember, it was actually before the Avengers Endgame titles popped up. If I can remember. Yeah, I think Thanos dies very, very early in this film. I was not expecting that whatsoever. I was expecting him to maybe die probably halfway into the film, maybe. And then they might bring everyone back, and then somehow it causes Thanos to come back and then have to fight him again as everyone. I didn't think they'd go straight to him. So you see all the heroes together, and then once Tony comes back, Captain Marvel saves Tony. So I think that probably carried on from the post-credit scene in Captain Marvel, where they're trying to fix the pager, and then she basically says, "Where's Fury?" And I presume there's an off-screen conversation there, where which was probably cut out, where they tell Captain Marvel, you know, Tony's out there somewhere, you know, go find him, and so she's the one who brings him back. The gauntlet has some sort of like GPS on it, so when Thanos uses the gauntlet again to destroy the stones on a different planet, it sends out a signal. The Avengers clock onto this signal. They go straight to the planet with Captain Marvel, because obviously she's going to help save the day now, because she wasn't around before, and now they'll win. So they go straight to Thanos. He's chilling out in a shack somewhere, pretty wounded. He's stumbling up the stairs, and he's just cooking dinner. He's just like putting some salt into some soup, which looks quite nice. So he's just like living the dream. He's loving it. And yeah, Avengers show up to spoil his day, and there's a bit of a confrontation there. I was not expecting that. I didn't know how that was going to turn out. And Thor finally goes for the head, which he wanted to do for a very long time. So yeah, he finally goes for the head, and probably feels quite bad about it afterwards as well, just how it turned out, and the fact that he didn't go for the head before. So you know, this guilt plays on Thor's mind, and they realise there's nothing they can do to bring everyone back. You know, the stones are destroyed, Thanos is dead, it's time to move on. So the film skips 5 years ahead into the future, which is interesting. I thought it might be like maybe a year or two ahead, but 5 years it's quite a long time. You get to see the state of the world. You know, it's very, you know, just like a zombie apocalypse sort of type setting. You know, it's just like cars everywhere, and like everything's dark, and like it's just pretty grim. You know, Captain America is just giving like a talk to other people, you know, just telling them to move on, when in fact they don't want to move on. The Avengers themselves, you know, they don't want to. Well, a lot of them don't want to move on. They've sort of accepted. They're trying to accept what's happened. It's just quite a sort of a grim situation, sort of a somber mood. And I think the film needed that mood, to be honest, because, like I said, if it was just action from that point onwards, it would have got quite tired, to be honest. It would have been a bit too overwhelming. The film needed a bit of like a slow burn where the characters get to, you know, you get to see the characters 5 years on, like, you know, just trying to get on with life, trying to get on with things, accepting what's happened, until like a rat sort of saves the day, really. He's like, it's the rat that brought everyone back. He accidentally steps on a button which opens up the quantum realm van, which spits Ant-Man back out again, and the story starts from there. But a few other things which didn't work, I mean, not didn't work, sort of threw me off. Captain Marvel, I was expecting her to have a bigger role in this film, just because of how Infinity War ended in the post-credit scene. And them always saying, you know, she's like such a big hero, and, you know, just so powerful. I thought she was going to have like a big part in this, have more dialogue, but especially if she was the one that Nick Fury paged to come save the day. She didn't actually have that big of a role in this, which I really liked. So that was good. Oh, I thought she was gonna like take too much screen time. This film is about the Avengers. Infinity War was about Thanos. It was his film. This one's the Avengers' film, the original Avengers, especially Captain America and Iron Man. Captain Marvel has very little line. She does a lot of just blank staring, and then, you know, just some fighting later on. But I'm glad she didn't have a huge part in this. So that sort of threw me off, but in a good way, because it wasn't as what I was expecting. Another thing later on in the film was sort of Thanos sort of sabotages the Avengers' plan. So the Avengers come up with a plan of a time heist, they call it. So it was Ant-Man that comes up with this idea, and then he proposes the idea to sort of Captain America, who then talks to sort of Iron Man. He's not too sure about it, because he's got a daughter now who's she's a very great actress. She did a really good job. Usually kid actors can be hit or miss, but she did a great job. He's just like, yeah, living a family life with Pepper Potts and his daughter. And yeah, there's some great scenes there. You get to see Tony quite, sort of just chilled out in his atmosphere, and then the Avengers come along, propose, probably give him false hope. There's a way we can bring everyone back, and then it's just having those emotions brought up again in him. They come up with this plan. They call it a time heist. There's lots of fun about Back to the Future and lots of film references, which is great. And they do explain the rules in this film. It's not like Back to the Future. If you kill your past self, you're not going to sort of die in the future self. You're not going to cause some like catastrophic effect. It will just branch into a separate timeline, the current timeline we're carrying as it is, and you'll just get different branches of the timelines. So like a different universe type thing, a timeline. We're trying to think back to Flash sort of alternate timeline things, alternate universes that they have in the TV show. But yeah, they explain the rules really well in this film, which they needed to do, and lots of fun film references at that point as well. On the point of film references, I don't know if there was actually a reference to Terminator. It did seem like it, and obviously Terminator has lots of time travel involved. There was a scene where Nebula has to go and get one of the stones. She has to reach in with her hand, and War Machine is warning her it might be a trap. You've sort of seen this thing in films before. She reaches in, grabs the stone, takes it out. Her hand's completely fried, and she just looks like she's got like a metallic sort of skeleton sort of hand, just like the Terminator has. It might not be a reference, it might be, I'm not sure, but it did really remind me of Terminator, just seeing that hand, very Terminator 2-like, and obviously Terminator has sort of time travel, so I'm not sure if that was a reference or not, but I thought that was pretty cool. Going back to where I was, yeah, so when they do the time travel, time heist they call it, which is quite cool. They split into teams trying to figure out where the stones are in different parts of the timeline, and they split into teams. This team go off and get these stones, this team go off and get these stones, this person get this stone. So they devise that plan, and I thought that was going to play out quite nicely. They have a bit of a fun adventure getting the stones, bringing it back, and then the movie would go on from there. But in fact, it's a nice little twist which I wasn't expecting, that when the two nebulas were in the same time together, they sort of because both of their like brains were like shared in the network at that same time, it sort of fried both of their sort of brains, because they were both at the same time and the networks was just getting a bit crashed when they were both there. So Thanos sort of saw like a memory pop up in his version of Nebula, which caused him to deconstruct her and go into her memories and see the whole plan that the Avengers were going to do. At that point I was like, uh-oh, this can't be good, and things are not going to go well, and I wasn't expecting that at all. So that was really cool to see a nice twist midway in the film, which was quite cool. The other big thing which threw me off, which I think threw a lot of people off, was a huge character change. And there's two big character changes. So one of them is obviously with Thor. Now, Thor was obviously quite a badass in Infinity War, with his look and new haircut, and well, his haircut was from Thor Ragnarok, but yeah, he'd carried that over, and yeah, he was just like, quite a mighty, powerful, sort of ripped guy. And this, he's just sort of let himself go a bit. He's a bit of a slob. He just drinks lots of beer, crates of beer actually, in New Asgard, and just locks himself away just with his friends playing Fortnite and just drinking beer. That was, yeah, I wasn't sure about that version at first. When I first saw him, I was like, okay, this is probably only temporary. I'm sure he's going to do some magic wizardry Asgardian spell to get him all fit and sort of ripped again with his old self. But no, he actually had that for the rest of the film, and that was interesting. That was a very bold move for the character. Interesting choice of the direction they took with that character. Yeah, that was very, very interesting. And I didn't like it at first, I'd have to admit. I wasn't too sure. It just looked a bit goofy with his sunglasses and some of his dialogue, and I was trying to take the character seriously. But then as the film went on, I didn't mind. I think it's because Chris Hemsworth is such a great actor, and he's brought a lot of himself into the role from when we first saw Thor in like the first two original films. Since then, Chris Hemsworth has brought his own personality into the character, and he's just he's quite funny. He's hilarious, and yeah, he just didn't want to be what people wanted him to be. Ruler of Asgard. He just wanted to sort of forget about what happened in the past. He had a lot of guilt from what he did, or what he didn't do. He didn't take out Thanos' head, he went for the chest, and then he caused all this to happen, so that's on his mind, and he's just basically let himself go a lot. Yeah, and he's become just a cool guy in sunglasses. I think Iron Man makes a few jokes, and everyone else makes a few jokes to him and how he is. So yeah, a big change there. But it was also good the way that they kept it. They kind of showing that he's this big hero, but he doesn't have to have this like fit, chiseled look just to be a hero. He can still be a hero without that. He's still the same person. So that was a nice little message there. That was quite nice. But yeah, we got a cool guy Thor, fairly unfit. With some fantastic scenes with him as well. And the other big character change was with Hulk. This might divide a lot of people, especially if you're a Hulk fan as well. Hulk, he's learned to sort of control the Hulk a lot more. He didn't want to be Bruce Banner. He didn't want to be the Hulk. He sort of picked someone in between, which is a Professor Hulk. So when you first see him, they've gone to him to talk about the time heist. And yeah, he's just very upbeat, very cheerful, taking selfies with people, or little kids. And there was a nice sort of tease at Ant-Man there, because they didn't know who Ant-Man was. Well, they probably did, but they didn't want a selfie with him. They wanted it with Hulk instead. The comedy was really good in this film. They did a good job with the humour. Might have taken it too far at some stages, but no, it was really good. But the Hulk, yeah, when I first saw him, I was like, really? Okay. You're just trying to get used to his look and his face. He's not as big, he's not as small, he's sort of in between. And it took a while to get used to. And I thought he'd only be like that temporarily as well. I thought he'd sort of go back into a Bruce Banner Hulk at some point, and then Hulk out maybe to take on Thanos. Because in Infinity War, Thanos did beat him up pretty badly at the start of the film. So I thought later on in Endgame, he'd sort of completely rage out, become the Hulk, and sort of get his own back on Thanos. And that never happened, unfortunately. But they did use Professor Hulk in a different way in this film, just using him for his brains, really. The CGI was fantastic, which helped a lot to keep him looking that way. And they used the de-aging technology again in this film, which looks fantastic. They used that in Captain Marvel. They used this on Hank Pym, I think. I don't know if they used it on anyone else, but that was really good special effects. But yeah, the Professor Hulk definitely threw me off. The next thing which threw me off was Black Widow dying. So yeah, we lost our first Avenger at that point, and which was really, for me, it was more shocking than sad. I was sad, but it was more of a shocking scene because I did not see that coming at all. That's when she had to go with Hawkeye to get the Soul Stone. So they'd obviously gone to the same place Thanos went to. I don't know how they know where that is. I guess they just walked towards the biggest mountain, I guess. It was looked like a mountain area. So they went there, and then Red Skull obviously told them that to get the Soul Stone, you've got to give up something you love the most. And then they had, it was a really touching scene. Fantastic acting by Black Widow and Hawkeye. Great chemistry between them. Just the exchange of their words, and just leading up to that point, she didn't even know who her father was, who Red Skull told her about, and she starts to think that I've got no family other than the Avengers. Well, Hawkeye's got his family back at home, so yeah, they have a bit of a fight to decide who's going to be the one to get to kill the. Fighting to kill, see who sacrifices each other, or sacrifices themselves, sorry. So they're just fighting who dies. I was a bit worried, like, what if both of you die? That's going to be quite tragic. So they did take it too far at one point. But I did think it was going to be Hawkeye, kind of, because Black Widow is one of the original Avengers, I would have really liked to have seen her right at the end. In the epic battle, just with the rest of the team. I would love to have seen her there. She's a fantastic character I really liked. So when she was the one who fell down in exchange for the Soul Stone, I was quite shocked because that threw me back a bit. I was like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting a death like that so soon. Very similar to obviously Gamora's death in the same setting, but a different way that happened. And it also made me think, what if other team members went to get the Soul Stone? Like, how does it work? What if only one person goes to get the Soul Stone, and you don't have the thing that you love to sacrifice? I mean, what actually happens? Do you like have to run all the way back to where you came from? Tell Rose Skull, like, sorry, I've just got to go back and get the one thing that I love. I'll be back tomorrow to get the Soul Stone. Don't let anyone else through. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know how it would have worked. It's very convenient that it happened to be two people that loved each other in that way. There's a lot of very moments like that where it's very convenient moments. But a lot of the Marvel films, and a lot of films in general, pretty much have very convenient moments like that. So that's just a film trope, really. I think that happens in most films. It's nothing which you can really nitpick. But it would be interesting to see what happens if you send someone to get the Soul Stone who hasn't got something they love with them at that point, if they have to walk back and come again. So yeah, Black Widow dying definitely threw me off. That was shocking and sad at the same time, just because it was very, very unexpected. I thought when they were sitting down and discussing, I thought they might come up with a trick, some sort of loophole, which would let them get the Soul Stone and Red Skull would probably waver it and sort of, just let them off because of some sort of twist, kind of similar to Doctor Strange's twist that he had at the end of his film. Sort of his little trick with, that I forgot the guy's name, that he had to keep doing that time loop until he gave in. I thought they might come up with a similar sort of trick here, but they didn't. So and the way the story played out was not what I expected. Which was a great thing. So this film is not predictable. I wouldn't say it's predictable. It doesn't follow like a similar beat as some Marvel films. It does have a couple of twists, a few surprises, and if you don't know about the whole time heist thing, that would completely throw you off, and that'll be really exciting, especially if you followed the journey from the start and been a fan of the films, appreciated these moments, just seeing them go back to these these iconic moments that we've seen. It was fantastic. The music choices were very unexpected as well. It wasn't, I think I was expecting, because of the stakes, I was expecting a bit darker sort of theme music throughout the film, something a bit more serious, but they did throw in a lot more upbeat, lighter songs on some scene transitions, and that was interesting. It threw me off, but it was good because it separated itself from, say, Infinity War. You can see Endgame is not like it's not Infinity War Part 2 at all. It's separate. It's its own film, own entity in its whole. It's a massive celebration of the last 11 years. So the music choices they're interesting, but on top of the different music choices, you still got your epic Avengers theme tune, which you could never get tired of, and there were some themes from Infinity War still there as well. Same composer as the guy who did the music in Avengers as well. I think they got the same guy, Alan. Forgot his surname. But yeah, that was really good. The whole time heist aspect of the film was absolutely fantastic. It was just so fun. I felt myself smiling throughout all of the scenes, because they just, apart from when Black Widow died, of course, but the rest of them, especially going back to the Battle of New York, it's mainly because you got to see a different perspective of that battle. You got to see scenes where you remember ending in the previous films, and then you see those scenes where they left off, but you see them continue. So you got to see like they were S.H.I.E.L.D., they thought was S.H.I.E.L.D., come in and take the Tesseract, but we know it was Hydra. So the future team obviously knew it was Hydra. So you got to see Hydra take the Tesseract with Crossbones was there, and there's some fantastic conversation between Captain America and the other people that were there, and yeah, it was just fantastic to see that, and even things like seeing in Doctor Strange you saw the New York Sanctuary. You get to see that in the New York sort of time heist scene, and you get to see the character from Doctor Strange. Forgot her name now. That's one of the characters which I never remember the name of, but you can see her defending that area of New York with her mysticism and her spells. So when you're watching the Avengers, you sort of know that that's going on at this time. So it was really fun to see that. You're just seeing all these characters and everything happening, and it's paced so well. The pacing when it went to their time heist, I think the pacing was perfect. They had so much to cram in, and they were just going from one location to the other location to the other location. They had some fantastic moments, like when Captain America had to get into a lift with some Hydra agents and Crossbones, which was like a mirror copy of when in Winter Soldier Captain America went into the lift and he had to take out those people, and he says that line in the film, like, does anyone want to get out before we get started, sort of thing. In this one, you're expecting him to say a similar line and then beat them up, but instead he whispers "Hail Hydra" into the ear of one of the guy who has the briefcase, and that was it was a great moment, and it's also a throwback to the one of the recent comics where Captain America says "Hail Hydra," so that was that was great, and you get to see a Captain America versus Captain America fight, which is both slinging their shields at each other. Good sort of a conversation about the costume as well. Some really funny scenes there, and you also get to see like the Hulk trying to be Hulk. It's just a very funny scene where Captain America tries to tell him to just smash a little bit, and he's just trying, but because he's not the proper Hulk, he's just not really hasn't got it in him, and it's just really funny. Loki escapes with the Tesseract. He's gone again, so I guess this might lead into his show that he's going to have, but when everything goes down with the plan that Ant-Man and Iron Man and Captain America have, Loki takes the Tesseract, and a portal opens up behind him, and he pretty much steps back and he's gone. So he's gone with the Tesseract in some different time, I don't know, timeline, maybe not timeline, I'm not sure, because he's just opened up a portal and you don't know where he's actually gone. So that's opened up his new show, I guess. And another fantastic time heist moment was when we go back to the first scene for Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's that epic moment where Peter Quill, Star-Lord, is walking into it's the start of the film where he's walking towards where the Infinity Stone in, and he's just dancing, he's doing a dance, he's got the music in his ears, he's just in the groove. You get to see that shot for a little while, and the music's completely familiar straight away from the first Guardians film, and then you see War Machine and is it Nebula? You see it from their perspective, so they're in the background behind some rocks, and it's just funny how the music was playing really loud, and then the music cuts to what it would be like if you're just watching from the sidelines, and you get to see what an idiot this guy is, just dancing around, trying to get this stone. I think they make a reference saying, is such an idiot, sort of thing, and Nebula agrees. So what they did with the time heist was fantastic. I know time, any film which has time involved, time travel, there's always going to be plot holes and convenient plot, techniques that are thrown in. There's always going to be some sort of nitpicks you can make, but I think they did a good job in this film, and they used it in a perfect way, because if you've been a fan of the films and the journey, you get to revisit these iconic moments that you've seen, but you get to see them again and in a different perspective to what you've known them, and they also fulfill their mission by getting the stones. But yeah, obviously Thanos sabotages his plan by seeing what's going to happen from Nebula's sort of memory. Gets Nebula swaps out with her future self, sabotages the team, and then it all goes fairly downhill from that point onwards. And but yeah, it was just amazing to see. It felt like there's two main parts. Yeah, probably two main parts. You got the whole time heist thing is like a nice film on its own, and then you have everything after that, which is like the epic battle. There's a lot to cram into this film, and I think, including the credits, it nearly reaches 3 hours. And to be honest, I could have done with an extra hour. I wouldn't have minded. I would have loved it. Just bring it on. I wonder what the sort of unedited cut would be like. Even extending, just 5 minutes here and there on each of the scenes that we've seen, because it's just, some of the scenes were so good you didn't want them to end. It was just fantastic. If you've just added like an extra 5 minutes here and there, just increased the runtime, I would have been fine with it, to be honest. And I didn't feel the first hour was long at all, because I think that a slow part was really needed for the characters and the story. They needed that rather than going straight into action. So yeah, and Thanos' presence is still impressive. Just like in Infinity War, when Thanos comes on screen, he steals the show, and you just look at him and think, damn, okay, this guy's somebody to be scared of. There was genuine threats in this film. There was genuine risk, and sort of the Avengers definitely had something to lose. They've already lost a lot, and they've got more to lose, which made the story a lot more tense, because it wasn't going to be an easy ride, and you actually felt that in the characters. You felt that this is their one shot, whatever it takes to get this done, and that was really nice to sort of see them put into a situation where they can't. It's not a walk in the park for them, or and the stakes were really, really high. So it was great to see the stakes being that high in a film like this, which was needed. But yeah, I think all the characters did a fantastic job, especially the main six, obviously Avengers, focusing on Captain America and Iron Man the most, but everyone played their part really well. Obviously, even with the character changes, everyone did a really great job. And it was good that this film focused on the original six, which is what it needed. Otherwise, I think it just could have been a bit too much, because there's just too many characters, really. Obviously, we get to see all the other characters at the end. So we eventually get to a point where, you get an epic fight between Thanos and Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man. There's a great scene where when Thanos sends Nebula to get the stones back for him, just after he's shot down the Avengers Tower, the Avengers building, sorry. Just eventually he shot the whole building to crap. You think someone's obviously going to die there, and surprisingly everyone survived. A few that were just injured. Everyone gets out, and then Thanos just literally just sends Nebula to get the stones, and Nebula asks, what are you going to do? And he just says, I'm just going to wait. And I thought that was perfect. Thanos has such a calm sort of presence. He doesn't just like rage, and he doesn't like he could have just gone and just gone after Thor, the guy that he's seen kills him. Actually, no, he didn't see who kills him, but he knows he gets killed. So he could have just gone to the Avengers and just taken them out. But he just he lands there, he just sits down and he waits, and then you get that really amazing scene where you see Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man slowly walk towards Thanos. Now at that point, I thought that was it for one of them. One of them's going to perish. I thought it might be Captain America. I thought one of them was definitely going to die. And it's funny that Thor's even in his sort of state that he is, but he gets a cool moment where when he gets his hammer, he gets it, like his beard's like styles all properly, so he looks really cool, even though he's got the sort of the belly. But yeah, then they all work together to try and take out Thanos. It's a pretty epic fight, because you get to see them all sort of fighting at the same time. The camera is sort of panned outwards a bit, not too close in for shaky cam. So it's well choreographed. You get to see everything really nicely. The setting's quite dark and bleak. They're exchanging blows. Captain America's doing his thing with the shield. Thor's doing his thing with a hammer. Iron Man's got some sort of even it's like really cool tech. He even teams up with Thor in one move where Thor sort of fires the lightning into the suit, and then he fires these like loads of beams into Thanos. So it's really cool to see that. Yeah, you get to see an amazing fight. I wish you would seen a bit more of that fight. It does cut away to what the other people are doing, then cut back to the fight. Yeah, and Thor nearly doesn't make it out alive because he gets I think it's the Stormbreaker. He gets pushed into his chest, just like in Infinity War, where Thor pushed the axe into Thanos's chest. Yeah, that was I thought he was a goner at that point, because there was nothing else he could do, and I think Captain America was knocked out. So that was yeah, it was like a bit of a desperation moment. You're wondering what's going to happen, and then probably the best moment in the whole film, hands down, happens, which is where Thanos is pushing the axe into his chest, into Thor's chest, and Thor's not be able to do much, and the camera shifts to the hammer Mjolnir, and it starts to sort of vibrate and then move. So you obviously think Thor's sort of taking a hand out and then reaching for the hammer, and he'll sort of do an uppercut and take out Thanos. But no, instead you see the Mjolnir sort of, I can't remember if it hits Thanos or not, but it goes round him, goes straight past Thor, and then the camera sort of pans to Captain America, and then you just see him like take hold of Mjolnir, the hammer, and it's the most epic scene. I think there were people cheering at that moment. It was amazing. It was just so exciting. I was on the edge of my seat. He takes the hammer, and he straight away, Thor says, "I knew it," because knew that he was worthy. It sort of links back to Age of Ultron, where just before Ultron is that sort of ruins the party. The Avengers are trying to pick up the hammer, and they're having a competition to see if anyone can pick it up. When Captain America wields it, it sort of vibrates slightly, and you see Thor's look on his face, like really shocked, and then a sigh of relief when he can't pick it up. But yeah, in here he's finally worthy enough. He takes the hammer, and something which you didn't think you'd be able to see at all in any of these films, you get to see Captain America with the hammer, with the lightning. Straight away does the circling sort of attack, spins the hammer, goes towards Thanos, uppercuts him, does a flurry of attacks with lightning, the hammer, the shield, just everything, just like throwing blows at him. It was one of the best moments in the film. It was just definitely, there's lots of memorable moments in this film, I think, not just one, but this was definitely one of the most memorable. And then you get to see them all fight it out together. Just when you think things are going a bit bleak and things are not going to go down well, you see the start of probably the most epic battle in comic book history, hands down, which is the finale, the end epic battle in this film, in Endgame, where you see every single character. So I think one of the Doctor Strange's portal opens up, and you see Black Panther come through with his sister and his other lieutenant, and they walk through. And the Black Panther doesn't get a very big role in this film, but it was a very nice moment. You see them come through, and then there's like a short exchange, like a nod, like, yeah, we're here. And then you see other portals open. I think Doctor Strange comes through, and then the most epic filming in this film, like the way the camera pans through each of the openings, and you get to see each of your favourite characters that you've been on this journey with all this time come into this battlefield. Pretty much every single MCU character, every hero that's mattered, the camera pans to every one of them, with the music playing in the background. It was outstanding. It was absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see that scene again. So they all come out of the portals, which is really, really cool. They all join the battlefield. You get to see the look on Thanos' face. He's like really shocked. Just looking at them, you can see he doesn't say anything. He's probably just thinking, "Oh crap, this isn't good." And that's when it all kicks off. You get a huge, huge battle, making the battle in Wakanda in Infinity War just looking like sort of something quite small, kind of similar to into Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, where you have the battle in of Helm's Deep, and then in Return of the King, you get the huge battle for Middle Earth against Sauron. Similar thing here. Infinity War has the smaller battle, and then Endgame has the most epic battle that we'll probably ever get. I can't see how they're gonna have an event to this scale again with these iconic characters as iconic as these. And that battle was amazing. I have no idea how they directed that. I don't know how you go about picking which character gets what screen time, and how you change from one fight to the other, from this character to that character. It's just mind blowing to thinking about how they filmed this. Just Russo brothers, they just did an amazing job. It goes on for a long time, and it's just a fantastic scene. Every one of your characters will be there fighting away, and it also brings me to some characters popping up who I was hoping they'd pop up, like Valkyrie. She has a fantastic role in this film. She has just the right amount of screen time. She's a great character, great actress. So Valkyrie does a great part in this. You get to see her in a scene in New Asgard, and you get to see her in the epic battle at the end. And a sort of a smaller character, but I'm glad he was in there, was Korg. He was the South African stone character in Thor Ragnarok. So he was there in earlier on in the film when you get to visit Thor in New Asgard. So every time he talks, it's just hilarious. So I'm really, really glad he was in the film, because he was one of the favourite things about Thor Ragnarok. Every time he opens his mouth, it just cracks me up. He's funny, he's likeable, he's fun. He was playing a Fortnite in New Asgard, and somebody was harassing him on the mic and on the headset, and he gives it to Thor. Thor threatens him, and he gives it back to Korg, and Korg just like, thanks Thor. It's just the way he says it, like a really funny accent. It just delivers his lines fantastically. So I'm just amazed at the amount of characters and actors that got into Endgame. It's just it's definitely like a celebration event. We're seeing like Jane Foster. You get an amazing scene with Thor and his mother, which was a really sad scene. You get to see Crossbones pops up. You get Alexander Pierce from The Winter Soldier. You get to see some familiar Hydra faces. Howard Stark. Fantastic scene with Howard Stark and Tony Stark. So Tony gets to meet his dad, and he's had different thoughts about his dad, which we found in previous film, and he gets to actually talk to him, and they have a really, really good dialogue, really good conversation, and I think Tony feels differently, and he's in a different point in his life. Then he's got a daughter as well, so he's a father, and then he gets to see what his own father feels when he's gonna be a father. And that scene was really touching. So, and around that time there was also another touching scene with Peggy Carter, where Captain America he finds himself in Peggy Carter's office, and he sees her in the office next to his one, next to the one he's in. So, and he sees her, but you can just, with his emotions in his eyes, he just wants to say something, like, just tell her that he's there, just communicate in some way, but he doesn't get to, and you just know he's gonna meet up with her at some point in the film, which he does, which I'll get onto. So I'm sort of going back and forwards here, because there's just so much that happened in this film. It's just hard to talk about it all in order, because you just remember some iconic moments that happened in this film, which you really want to just talk about. It's just, there's a lot happened in this film. It was just a huge event, way more than I thought it was going to be, now I think about it, and I can't wait to see it a second time. What else we see Hank Pym and Nick Fury. I'm trying to think if there's any other characters. Stan Lee's cameo. He has a cameo. I'm not sure if he was CGI'd or not. I'm not sure if he was around, bless him, to sort of film his scene. But he was in the past. He was sort of like, I think they de-aged him, so he looks a lot younger. He mentioned about the 70s or something. He made quite a funny line about the 70s. You got to see that. One thing I wasn't too keen on was Captain Marvel's new look. She had yeah, it was just a very, very odd, because we've seen her as with the long hair in her own film and at the start of the film, but then after the 5 years on, she suddenly got this like new haircut. So that's one thing. I think I mentioned that before, but yeah, that's one thing, which a character change which I wasn't too sure on, and I wish she'd said it just a little bit more, but just not had too much role. But some bit more dialogue would have been nice. But in the last fight, she does sort of bring it on, because the Thanos sort of he tells all of his ships to point and fire at the armies. His own, he doesn't even mind if his own army perish, but he just wants to fire at the Avengers and everyone. But then the turrets sort of change, and then they point to sky, and then you see Captain Marvel just like burst her way through the ship and just completely obliterate it, which was it was a fantastic scene. But then it's just like, it was hard to get used to the new look, because it was so sudden that she's got this new look. You're just trying to get used to the character from when Captain Marvel came out, and then suddenly they're just throwing a new look at you straight away. So you're just trying to transition into the new Captain Marvel look. So it sort of threw me off on that scene towards the end as well, because she went away for a while and then you didn't see her until the end, and then you remembered, oh, okay, she looks like that. But she did have some cool moments, like they definitely showed how strong she was in this film. Thanos even tries to headbutt her, but it just bounces straight off, and she doesn't even flinch. Then Thanos takes one of the, I think it's the Power Stone, and then just punches her, and she goes flying. I think it must knock her out, because you don't see her again for the rest of the film until the end. So yeah, the final fight was definitely amazing. You get so many characters, all of your favourites are all there. Just amazingly directed. Just the cinematography is really good as well. Some really wide shots, and you get to see a cool moment with Spider-Man as well, when he sees Tony for the first time again. They exchange a few words. Tony embraces him. You know, you get to see that there is a real connection between these two characters, and Tony really does care about his kid. And Spider-Man gets to use his insta-kill finally, which he was mentioned in the previous films. So yeah, he gets to turn his insta-kill on, and then it takes out all the enemies. So that was really cool to see that. There's so many little things that happen in the last fight that you might miss, and just trying to think of all the moments. Like you see Groot, and you see like Bucky and doing his thing. You get to see Drax like stabbing someone in the back. You get to see Doctor Strange and War Machine and Falcon and Valkyrie. They're all there. The whole party's there, and you get like you get a girl power moment as well, which I think, you know, there's a bit of controversy around that scene. I think some people might not like it because it was quite forced. All the girls just got together at the same point in that battlefield at the same time. You know, and they had I think there was a scene beforehand with Scarlet Witch as well, where she shows her true power just to Thanos and tells Thanos that, you know, he will remember who she is because she took the thing that she loves, which was Vision. And she just picks up these huge sort of bits of earth and just like smacks him around with it. She definitely nearly overpowers Thanos, I think. And then you get a cool scene with all of the girls together, all of the female superheroes. I think I didn't mind it because I think it was more of a celebration of the characters, this event. So it was cheesy, but I didn't mind it. It was cool to see all the female characters together, and you just got to appreciate them. You say, okay, they were the female superheroes in this last 11 years. Some of them obviously going to carry on, but yeah, it was just sort of a celebration that, you know, here is a big you know, cheer for these female heroes, and what they've turned out to be, and their powers that they have. So that was quite cool. But I think one of my favourite moments was when Doctor Strange is with Iron Man, and Iron Man sort of asks Doctor Strange, what does he say? I think he says, you know, is this the one? Because he saw one possibility in Infinity War where they win. And you know, he asked him, is this the one? And Doctor Strange says, you know, I'm not allowed to, I can't tell you, because if I tell you if this is the one, it's not going to happen. And then there's I think it was just really powerful. It's just the main moment of the film, which a lot of people will take away and probably made them into an emotional wreck, which was which leads to sort of Tony Stark's death in this film, which was very very sad. Doctor Strange, all he does is he's just a fantastic moment where he looks at Tony Stark and he just says one, as in this is the one, just lets him know without saying anything else. Doesn't tell him he's going to die. He just tells Tony, that they've got quite far into the battle, and just to let you know that this is the one. This is what I saw, and I think it's what Tony needed. It sort of gives him sort of a push, a final push to say, right, okay, this is the one. Then I'm going to give it everything I've got, and that's where he goes to Thanos and tricks him by getting hold of the glove and then taking the stones. Thanos goes to click his fingers, nothing happens. You see Tony's got all the Infinity Stones in his own iron glove, which is able to withstand the stones, I guess. And then Tony has a fantastic line, obviously tying back to 2008 at the end of first Iron Man film. Thanos says, "I am something," I can't remember what it was, but then Iron Man tries to, being as witty character as he is, he says, "I am," and then he pauses, and then he just says it, "I am Iron Man," and then clicks his fingers, and decimates Thanos' army. His wills the forces of Thanos to sort of dust away, and that's it. You sort of, there's a slight moment where you sort of forget. You go think like, "Oh, they've done it, they've won," and there's a brilliant moment where Thanos he's just looking around and doesn't say a word. You see all of his army perish, and then Thanos I think he just takes a seat. He just sits down, doesn't go into a fit of rage. He doesn't rush towards one of the Avengers to take him out before he goes, which a lot of villains would have done in some previous previous films. He just sits down, doesn't say anything, accepts that he's lost this one, the Avengers have won, and then dusts away, and that is it. He goes into dust, and that's where you know that Tony's not gonna make it. There's some fantastic lines in the film, just like the "I am Iron Man" line, and there's lots of other lines in the film which sort of point back to previous films. Captain America saying "Avengers, assemble" is something that he hasn't said in any of the previous film, and he finally got to say it here. The script and the dialogue was just fantastic in this film. It's just fantastic how the characters sort of interact with each other, and some of the lines that were said. It was just really, really exciting to watch. It was fantastic. But seeing Tony in that state, I mean, at the start of the film, you saw him, he looked in a deathly state, really skinny. His face was like slim, his body was slim. He was barely keeping it together. He's on like drips. But here you see half of his face is charred, his arms charred. He's not going to make that. I mean, Hulk was able to withstand it because of the gamma radiation. But this is it, and it's just the way Spider-Man comes over to him, and then Peter Parker's just like, "Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark, we did it, Mr. Stark." It's just a complete reverse of Infinity War, but this time you can see Tony Stark's completely out of it. He can't speak. He's barely there. He's got nothing witty to say, which he would usually say, and and then you just see him slowly go because Pepper Potts comes in and just tells him to rest, and that's it. You see one of our favourite heroes that we've seen that started this whole thing off back in 2008. He dies, and that was probably the most saddest part of this film. It definitely got me. I'm sure it got a lot of people. Just even thinking about it again, it's just that the way that scene was filmed, it was fantastic. He was the one that defeated Thanos' army using that gauntlet, that brought the peace back into the world, brought everyone back. He was the one to do that, and he's the one that started it all. And he was there with Nick Fury from the start, and even Nick Fury's there at the end, and then the funeral, and just when they've got you with the Tony Stark dying scene, and you're just trying to recover from that, and then they give you this funeral afterwards, which you see the thing that Pepper Potts gave him, the arc reactor from the Iron Man 1 arc reactor, is his heart, proof that Tony Stark has a heart, the present that she made that kept him alive in Iron Man 1. You see that on the bed of flowers, and then it sets you off again, and that was a really touching, a really emotional scene, just to see everyone who affected Tony Stark's life. Everyone was there, and the camera does a fantastic job at slowly panning through each of the characters, just to give like a send-off to this hero, just as Tony Stark, the guy we've loved from the start. A camera pans through everyone, and you just get to see everyone's faces, and you're like, oh, that's Aunt May, that's Peter's there, he's you just point out all the names, you know everyone, until it gets to the back, and then you see this kid, and you have no idea. Well, I didn't have any idea who he was. I think not many people did. It seemed it was there on purpose, I think, just to confuse people. I think he was right at the back, just before Captain Marvel. There was a kid who was just standing there, and I was like, who is that guy? And I'm trying to think back at previous films to trying to see who he's familiar, who he looks like, and I just couldn't quite place who he was. It was only after the film I realised he was the kid in Iron Man 3 who Tony Stark bought all the tech for in the garage, and that kid was there to it talked about his anxiety problems in Iron Man 3. And it's the same actor who's like grown up now. He was there on the funeral. And once again, it's amazing that they got all of these actors together for this event, and it's something that will be remembered for so many years to come when they look back at this film. And you see Nick Fury there at the end as well. Peter Quill gets to talk to past Gamora, who hasn't really had the relationship that he's used to, so she gives him a decent kick, and he goes down from that. And he's searching for Gamora at the end as well. And there's quite a funny scene with Thor and Quill trying to decide who's the captain of the ship, which is a really good chemistry, just like the one in Thor Ragnarok. Not Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War. They had a really good chemistry together. And it'll be nice to see them together in like a Guardians 3. Hopefully they're together in that. But although I did find the humour went on for a bit too long in that scene, like the whole like which one's the captain sort of thing, just especially after what happened. I think that there were points in this film where the humour went on for a bit longer than it should have. I think we got the point, and then they should have ended it there. We know it's a Marvel film, it's got to be light-hearted, but sometimes it went on for a bit longer. So we lost Tony Stark and Black Widow. Really sad. And then we see Captain America. He has to get teleported or time warped, and then hide the stones, send them back to where they were. I'm not sure if it's where they were. I think he just hides them around, if I remember. He said like it was going to be 5 seconds for in present time, but for him it was however long he needs, so he was just going to get rid of the stones. But what I thought was going to happen is, so they flick the switch and he doesn't come back. And I thought either he doesn't going to come back full stop, or I thought it might just come back and leave the shield for it to be passed on to someone else, or maybe just the hammer, because he went with the hammer. So, but instead you see Captain America do come back, but he's sitting on a bench just staring out into a lake. And it looks like he's Captain America before he took his serum, because he looks like really thin from the back. So I was like, oh, okay, he just wants to live out his life without being Captain America, just without having the serum on. But no, you get to see his face, and it's a really sad, in a happy sad moment where you see Captain America old. He's grown old. He's got to live the life he's wanted to live. He's got to experience life to its fullest. He even it seems like he got married to Peggy Carter. So it was really great that Captain America got what he wanted. He got to have that life. And you get to see a really, really touching scene where he finally gets to have that dance with Peggy Carter, which has been hinted in the previous MCU films. So yeah, that was a really touching scene. So overall, it had so many touching scenes. It was really fun. It was an adventure. It was entertaining. It was surprising. It was shocking. It was epic. In its biggest term, it definitely was epic. Just seeing all those characters together, just everyone. It's just amazing how they filmed that. I just can't get my head around how they filmed some of these scenes, especially that last battle. Yeah, I'll be interested to see what I think the second time round, especially with the pacing. I think I can relax on the second viewing and enjoy the film a lot more. There's no end credit scene in this film, which was really good, because just to point to the fact that, this is it, this is the ending, wrapping it all up. Although Spider-Man Far From Home coming out not too long after this it's kind of confusing and sort of throws things out. It just seems a bit too soon for that film to come out. Maybe it could be like a bookend, like an epilogue to this. I hope in Spider-Man Far From Home, they do mention the events of Endgame and Tony Stark at least a few times, without us forgetting already. I mean, it seems quite soon. Yeah, and I'm not sure where they'll go from there onwards, really. But the end, there is a sound at the end after the credits. It's just the sound of clanking, which to me, I just thought straight back to Tony Stark in Iron Man 1 in the cave, banging away, trying to make his first Mark armor. And it was either a throwback to the very first film where everything began, just like come full circle, or it could have been seen as sort of Marvel don't worry, we're sort of banging away and we're making, we're working on something else, we're working on the next phase, don't worry. Just like Iron Man was working on the suit back in Iron Man 1, so they can be seen in different ways. Yeah, but I'm just trying to think if that rat never pressed that button to get Ant-Man out of the quantum realm, they would never have come up with the time heist, and they would have never executed this plan. So it was quite convenient for that rat to step across that machine at that point. I'm sure something would have activated it at some point. Maybe it could have been 10 years down the line. Hopefully the characters wouldn't have been too old by that point, so it seemed to have happened at a good point. But yeah, just trying to think back at early points of the film and just how it played out. It was really fun how it played out. It wasn't boring at all. It was just really interesting and exciting and fun and touching and sort of shocking, and you're on the edge of your seat. There's the scene with Captain America and his hammer, and having Thor dual wielding his weapons and just going at Thanos, and just Iron Man just being Iron Man, and just everything happened. Seeing Doctor Strange and the whole Wakanda army, even though they didn't do much. Black Panther running with the gauntlet actually reminded me of Justice League, when they were trying to get the mother box in the scene where Wonder Woman was from, and they were trying to pass the box from one person to the other and to the other. It kind of reminded me of that scene, because they were trying to get the gauntlet, and then Black Panther was running with it and then was passing it to Spider-Man. Spider-Man was running with it, so it kind of reminded me of that scene. But yeah, it ended nicely. So we got so Captain America's, he's obviously out. Iron Man, sadly we lost. The guy that started it all. Yeah, Black Widow we lost as well. It will be interesting to see what they do with Hulk and that character. I'd like to see him have at least his own film, because Mark Ruffalo is a fantastic actor. I just want to see him have just one more film. Thor, I hope to see him again. Just with the Guardians, that might be a cool idea. The end credits scene did a fantastic job where, after showing all the character names, they did something which I absolutely loved, which was they showed the original 6 Avengers, but each character that popped on screen, they had a really cool character portrait of them, and then they had the name of the actor, and then a signed like a signature from each of the actors. So you had you had your Black Widow, Hawkeye, Captain America, Hulk, and then it ended with Iron Man. It was just really, because they took their time with those end credits, just bringing each character one by one. Like here are your 6 Avengers, and then seeing their names pop up, and then a signature from each one, and the music sort of ramps up as it gets to Iron Man. It was just fantastic. I think it ended perfectly. It it wasn't an abrupt ending or anything. Black Widow got a bit of a send-off as well, and then Iron Man got a just amazing, touching send-off, which I'm sure it, yeah, got a lot of people emotional, especially me. It's just, yeah, trying to think if there's anything else I missed out, because there's so much that happened in the film. I think I'd have to watch it again, just trying to process everything. It's such a fantastic film. Obviously, it's, like I said, very different to like Infinity War, but this was an event. It was a celebration. It was celebrating the last 11 years of the MCU, just sort of wrapping it all up. A big thank you to the fans. A big, thank you to everything that's happened in the, in the previous MCU films. Closing the journey of these iconic characters, and especially the main Avengers. I really don't think anything like this will happen. I can't see anything else happening like this in future phases. We'll have to see, but it'll be interesting to see how people perceive this film in, like, say, 5 years' time, 10 years' time, when like another generation who didn't grow up watching, from 2008, the Iron Man, to Endgame, if they rewatch all of these films, like how they feel about it. It'll be interesting to find out what, how, this saga is looked upon back then, and it'll be interesting to see what phase of films are out then. Like a previous generation had Star Wars, but obviously this is something different. It's a spanning of 11 years. It's like you forget how invested you get into some of these characters and how much they mean. An Endgame just felt like more than a film. Yeah, like I said, I don't really do these kind of videos, but it just felt needed for this sort of just because I've watched all the films from the start, being a big fan. It was just nice to share my thoughts on Endgame. And just saying a huge thank you to sort of Marvel Studios, Russo brothers, the actors, and everyone who took part. It's just it was a great ending. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, go watch it, and if you have seen it, just go watch it again. I'm going to go watch it again, and I'm guessing lots of people are going to be talking about this film for many days and months to come, and also seeing what the future of Marvel holds. What are they going to do now, and which characters they're going to bring up. How is it going to compare to this? So yeah, I hope you enjoyed just hearing my thoughts on Endgame and the MCU and these characters. I touched upon quite a few things. It was quite casual and quite random in the ordering. I just had sort of all of my thoughts just come out, just how I felt with the film. But yeah, absolutely loved Endgame. It was a fantastic film. I just can't wait to see it again. You can ignore a lot of the nitpicking in the film, but yeah, the direction they took was brilliant, and it was a great ending, a great event, and a great celebration of the MCU so far. So yeah, hope you enjoyed watching. I usually do some gameplay videos, so if you do enjoy watching some of them, you can subscribe, and I'm going to be sort of playing through just various games and just streaming whilst I'm playing them. And yeah, I might do some future videos on films, because I love my films, and especially comic book films as well. So hope you enjoyed the spoiler talk. If there's any questions you have, just post them in the comment section below, and I will happily reply back and just see what I think to them. Yeah, just comment below, like the video if you liked it, and hope you enjoy.